Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
All right, welcome. Glad you're with us on this, what is it? June 4th, 2025, June 4th, 2025. And we're getting word that President Trump has just hung up from like a 70-minute phone conversation with Putin. But there are going to be reprisals for what Ukraine has done. So buckle up, buckle in. It seems as though, folks, we are going to World War III. I've been talking to Colonel Rob Maness today on the phone, talking with Leo Holman, talking with different folks as we plan our news for the day and our broadcast. And pretty much all of us agree we're headed for war. The question isn't, are we headed for war? It's when will it happen? And here's the bigger question for Americans. How are they preparing? Are they preparing? Because China, they're preparing their citizens for war. Russia, they have and are preparing their citizens for war. In fact, they have fallout shelters for a huge percentage of their population. How about us here in America? Most Americans, they're not preparing. And you know this by the fact, well, how few Americans actually are getting the truth about how close we are to World War III. It's not something you see talked about in the mainstream media with great context. You see, most people think a war will happen over there. And World War I, World War II, that's pretty much what happened. They were over there. Right? There were even songs about that. Over there, right? Well, let me tell you something, folks. World War III, I think, will be fought here. And in many ways, it's already begun. Many people go to war for many different reasons. There is no singular reason for going to war. There are always multiple reasons, multiple motivations. And when it happens, there'll be those who want it to happen right here on the lower 48. They've gone from burning the American flag and the Israeli flag to actually burning Americans and Jews. Now it's come out that the protester that did that, well, he was saying all kinds of crazy things. I have the article. Boulder, firebombing Muslim terrorist declaration. Quote, jihad is more beloved to me than my mother, wife, and children. Allah is greater than the Zionists and America, end quote. These folks are here. The CCP, they're here. They have their military-age males. And the Marxists and the Islamists, the red-green axis, they are very intent that this next time there's a world war, it's going to happen on the lower 48. Gordon Chang be one of our keynote speakers this fall, October 3rd and 4th, outside of Memphis in Collierville, Tennessee, where we are based. He's been saying, just the CCP alone, they're going to poison our water. They're going to detonate bombs. There's going to be war right here on the lower 48. That's just the CCP he's talking about. Then add in the Islamists. Add in the anarchists. Add in the communists, the Marxists. Add in all of the brainwashed college students. What did Alan Dershowitz say on my broadcast a few months ago? And I said to him 2 weeks ago when he was on about the murder of the two Jewish students, or young people that worked at the Israeli embassy in D.C. I said, remember, Mr. Dershowitz, you said that we would see young people radicalized on America's campuses becoming terrorists. He said, yes, because that's what happened in the 1960s with the Weather Underground. But this audience, they're the best. They're the brightest. They're the most informed. Outside of you, there's very few Americans that know what I'm talking about. I actually said to my guys today, I said, go to the warehouse Go to the warehouse, it's a warehouse I haven't been. When do you think I last went to that warehouse, guys? I bet you it's been a year since I've been to that warehouse. Wouldn't you say, Caleb? It's been at least a year since I was there. It's not that far away. I just don't have time to go there. I don't have time to do much, to be honest with you. I really don't, other than be on TV 4 hours a day and then all the reading and show prep and everything that goes with that, plus studying Saturday and Sunday for my church service Sunday night. I'm not complaining. I'm not a victim. I don't want you to think I'm complaining. I'm not. I'm just saying I just don't have a lot of time even to go across town to my own warehouse, and I haven't been there in like a year. So I don't really know what's there anymore. And I asked them, take a bunch of pictures so I can see what kind of inventory we have. Because I don't know. Because I haven't been there in like a year. Dolly's never been there. Delta liked to go to the warehouse because she could run around, but Dolly's never even been to the warehouse. But I said to the guys, go there, take a bunch of pictures of that inventory that's on shelves and room after room and a big storage area as well. And let me see what we got. Because I think we better put together, for those who are not getting ready, a World War III preparation kit. And I'm dead serious. A World War III preparation kit. I've told you guys, I'm constantly preparing. I'm constantly thinking about what do I need? What don't I have? What do I need to update? What do I need to rotate out? And now we see, and I have it in the Worldview Report tonight, 2 CCP, Chinese Communist Party people arrested, bringing a biological pathogen into the United States of America. In fact, let me just tell you right now, this is I got my Worldview Report news right here. I'll give you the news a little early before tonight. They were charged in Michigan, these 2 Chinese nationals, allegedly smuggling a dangerous pathogen into the United States, claiming it was for the purpose of studying at the University of Michigan. One was 33, one was 34, apparently boyfriend and girlfriend. The fungus is the most significant and destructive disease affecting wheat crops all over the world. In fact, the scientific literature classifies it as a potential biological weapon. And who's funding her work? The Chinese government. In fact, the FBI is saying her loyalty is to the Chinese Communist Party. Let me ask you something. How much of this was going on during the Biden regime when apparently Joe Biden and maybe even some of the family and people around him were bought and paid for by the CCP? Some are accusing that, Dunn? Anita Dunn, was that her name? That gave the speech and said that 2 of her favorite thinkers were Mother Teresa and Mao Zedong. We have the video. She was in the Biden regime. Some say that she may have been behind the auto pen. I don't know. I'm just telling you what's been reported. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe she was. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I've read. Wait a minute. What did she say? Some of my favorite thinkers? Mother Teresa and Mao Zedong? Do you know how many people Mao Zedong murdered? The little red book of Mao? And if you got money going from the CCP to the Bidens or Joe or family members, certain family members, as has been reported by members of Congress and others, do you really think the FBI under his leadership was going after a lot of CCP people? Probably not. I didn't see that. They're too busy going after pro-lifers and Christians and homeschool people and mothers concerned about what's being taught in our government schools and Catholic folks that practice the Catholic Latin Mass. But I guess it's a new day at the FBI. Let's pray that's the case. And now they're going after people who have loyalty to the Chinese Communist Party. And then this gal's boyfriend, he was studying the same pathogen at a Chinese university. In fact, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan said, quote, the alleged actions of these Chinese nationals, including a loyal member of the Chinese Communist Party, are of the gravest national security concern. These two aliens have been charged with smuggling a fungus that has been described as potential agro-terrorism weapon. A potential agro-terrorism weapon into the heartland of America, where they apparently intended to use a University of Michigan laboratory to further their scheme. How long have we been talking about the desire of our enemies to go after our food supply? How long have I been talking about gray terror? Gray terror. You go after a country's infrastructure. That includes not only their communications, railroad, shipping, ports, rivers, byways, water, but certainly food. How many of these truckers we have in America we found out are illegals? What happens when the red-green axis decide they're going to war and they tell all of their comrades, stop your trucks. Stop your trucks. Don't deliver food. Don't deliver food to those grocery stores. How many other bioweapons are in the U.S.? We already know they apparently want to go after our food supply in America. Don't forget the old speech by one of the generals, a Chinese general, that said we're going to kill off 2/3 of the American population, keep a third around to be servants of the superior race. Most Americans have no context for what I'm talking about. They would say, oh, that's scare tactics, that's doom and gloom, that's conspiracy, that's hype, that's entertainment. No, it's not. I have friends that are retired FBI, retired CIA, retired Special Forces, retired out of different administrations. If you knew what some of them were doing in their own personal life and for their own families, you would realize this is not a game. But the average American isn't ready. And so I said to the guys, go to the warehouse, take pictures of what we got, and I think we better put together a World War III preparation kit because they're getting ready in China. Europe has told their people to get ready because we know they're provoking the war. But Americans, they're largely not ready. And yet the war has already started. And they've already declared their enemy is the Zionists and the Americans. We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com. Well, they've arrested the guy that set Americans on fire in Boulder. And now I guess they've arrested his wife and a couple of his kids. And apparently USA Today has a headline. Here it is, USA Today. Boulder suspect's daughter dreamed of studying medicine. Now she faces deportation. Boo-hoo. Yep. Reminds me an awful lot like what happened with the people up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Remember the media there? They went in and interviewed the dude that threatened us, had federal charges for threatening us, brandishing weapons on video. The media never called us, never called me and said, hey, Mr. House, how did you feel? Your son and wife were with you. And not to mention all those people in that room that listen to your broadcast that I'm sure you felt responsible for. How did this make you feel, Mr. House? What were you thinking when you saw those videos? Oh, they didn't call me. They called him. How did you feel? How did you feel? The sheep in the media. And what you bet most of those people in your media in Sioux Falls are not from Sioux Falls. They're not from South Dakota. That'd be a very interesting research project. How many of them in your local media are not from your state? And those that are, where'd they go to school? Where'd they get brainwashed? So it reminds me of the media in Sioux Falls that wanted to make everyone feel sorry for the man that came into our conference and then sat out in the parking lot after being removed by the security I had to pay for and brandished those weapons on video. They interview him. They feel sorry for him. Well, here we go. USA Today. Boulder suspect's daughter dreamed of studying medicine. Now she faces deportation. Let's go to Aaron in Israel. Aaron, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brandon, great to be with you. Thank you.
So give me your quick response to what's happening in America here, lighting Jews on fire. They've gone from burning the Israeli flag and the American flag to actually burning Americans and Jews. What do you make of all this? And what do you make of all my research I've been doing for several years? It tells me that there's World War III is coming. Remember, I put together a documentary that came out in November of 2019, Siege. That was in the subtitle. And I did a documentary conference in 2017 and 2018 called Holocaust Horizon. That this is going to happen on our soil, unlike World War I, World War II. This will be fought not over there, but also here. What do you say of that?
Well, this is not just an attack on the Jews in Israel. This is now global, either jihad or global intifada. In other words, the intifada, which is an Arabic word called uprising, there was the first intifada in the 90s. There was the second one in the early 2000s, but it was based in Israel. Now they're attacking Jews everywhere. It's a global intifada, which goes in hand with global jihadism. In 1977, 78, 79, the Islamic Revolution. This is what their goal was back there. We're seeing it. And you were right. You were right pointing out it's coming to America. It's already there in America. And here's the thing. Your authorities that are kicking these people out, there are people on the left, there are the liberals, they're criticizing them. Well, they may criticize them, but I call this, and I've been listening to military strategists, this is actually called deterrence. By kicking these people out of your country, you are actually protecting the country. This is not revenge. You're not taking revenge on these people. You're actually, firstly, you are punishing them for their crimes, but also this is deterrence. This is sending out a message to other people. You can't do that in our borders. You can't do that in our territories. Maybe previous presidents turned a blind eye and didn't care about it. But you've got an administration now that does care about it, that does care about the people, and it's a no-go zone, and you better watch out. You're out of here if you cross the red line. So I think it's a powerful message to throw these people out, throw them in the prisons, whatever you do. It's got to be a strong message. Otherwise, it's just going to continue and spiral out of control. And this also goes to the university, those people that go up there. If they want to protest and demonstrate verbally, that's one thing. But once it starts to get physical and violent, that's crossed the red line. So I like what I'm seeing with the authorities, and they need to keep it up.
Indeed. All right, let's go to you. You had rockets coming from Syria into Israel yesterday. My red app was going off while I was on the air yesterday. Tell me about the latest there.
Yeah, well, actually, it's been day and night. I got a shock. My son crashes into my bedroom. I slept through the siren last night, but there was a siren. It's not an uncommon thing. So we had to get out and get to the shelters. These missiles continue to come from the north, from the south, and our enemies are relentless. They will not let up. And as our defense minister said, any missile that's fired from Lebanon, from Syria, from Gaza, from Judea and Samaria, we are holding the Iranians responsible. They are the ones that feed these proxies. So we're used to it. And thank God for the Iron Dome. Thank God for the David Sling, our defense missiles that are, for the most part, taking them out. And I've been reporting on this for a while now. And I know I've been like a broken record saying that the laser dome is on its way and it's soon to be ready. Well, the same old message. There's more and more reports that we're getting very, very close to the laser beam being ready. It's already been used, actually, and it was successfully used, but it's not quite out there on all the fields yet. That will be a game changer. So instead of it being a missile that costs $50,000 to $80,000 per missile, this will be something like $2,000, and it will be a laser. It will be pinpoint exact. So we're waiting for that to be acted out.
All right, let's go to the fact that President Trump, I guess, has had a phone conversation with Putin. He's put out a statement on social media. I had it up here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let's see. I don't know why it went away, but let me just put this into Trump and Putin. And I can read what he has put out on his True Social. Here we go. I just finished speaking by telephone with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. The call lasted approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes. We discussed the attack on Russia's docked airplanes by Ukraine and also various other attacks that have been taking place by both sides. It was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. President Putin did say, and very strongly, that he will have to respond to the recent attack on the airfields. We also discussed Iran and the fact that time is running out on Iran's decision pertaining to nuclear weapons, which must be made quickly. I stated to President Putin that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Can I just stop right there? They already have one. And I think President Trump knows it, unless, of course, he's in the dark, like he didn't know about the drone attack on Putin's helicopter, like he didn't seem to know that Ukraine was going to attack Putin's planes. He seems to be in the dark by his advisors around him. And maybe they've told him that Iran doesn't have the weapon, doesn't have the bomb. We all know they did and do. Former CIA analyst Peter Pry was saying it for years. Others are saying it. How many they have, I don't know, but they've got it. So he said they can't have a nuclear weapon. And on this, I believe that we were in agreement. President Putin suggested that he will participate in the discussions with Iran, that he could perhaps be helpful in getting this brought to a rapid conclusion. It is my opinion that Iran has been slow-walking their decision on this very important matter, and we will need a definitive answer in a very short period of time, end quote. They've been slow-walking this on multiple administrations. I mean, let's be honest. This is what they do. They lie. Tequila. They're liars, okay? This has not been a slow walking. This has been a campaign of lies and distortions from multiple administrations while they acquire more and more and more bombs. Now I'm reading from the Jerusalem Post that the U.S. proposes interim step in Iran nuclear talks, allowing some uranium enrichment. That's the New York Times. I mean, these guys win. I'm sorry. Iran keeps winning because they keep buying time for more bombs, more weapons. And people say, well, they don't have a delivery. I was up on Capitol Hill. I won't say who, but someone in Congress said, but they don't have a delivery system. Like, really? You don't think Pakistan or China or North Korea haven't given them and sold them a delivery mechanism? Come on. Aaron?
Well, out of all of that statement from your president, the one that stuck out the most was when he said, time is running out. We must quickly. Now, was he referring to something specific, Brandon, when he said time is running out? Or did he mean my patience is running out? Our patience is running out. I don't know what he actually meant by that, but it just seems that Donald Trump, he's given them some time. What is it now, 7 weeks or something? These negotiations have been going on. Just when you think that his patience is running out, either the Iranians buy more time or Donald Trump gives in. I don't know. It's a hard one to read with him because he's not usually that patient. However, I think he wants to send a message to the world that he's giving it every chance. He's giving the diplomacy path a chance. But we're getting frustrated with him. Israel is. I know Bibi wants to do something. And part of why he wants to do it is not only because of our existential future, but also his own political life, which is on the blocks again. We can get into that soon. But look, we keep going around in circles. Once again, I use the term a broken record. How long is this going to go on for, Brandon? Now, I just wonder, could this be strategic? Could our defense forces, could the American defense forces be looking at the situation with the Houthis, with Gaza, and saying, okay, we've got to make sure that these fronts are dealt with first? Because we have been dealing with the Houthis. They've been rather quiet lately, and that's because they've taken a massive pounding from the Americans. And right now, as we speak, Gaza it's almost over. There's some incredibly positive signs going on in Gaza from our point of view. So could it be strategic? Don't know. But, we keep waiting for something to happen. And yeah, your president is right. Time is running out. But what he means and what we believe could be two different worlds apart.
All right, when we come back, let's get to the fact that even the New York Post is reporting the U.S. Israel-Gaza aid plan is working, which is why Hamas is spreading lies about it. They were saying Israel was killing these people. Oh, no, we have the videos. We'll be right back.
But with Brandon, it's always cutting-edge stuff happening in the world. And it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because he, from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
All right, here we go. Take a look. This is Liz Rosden exposed Hamas, the United Nations relief group, UN relief group. Those monsters are starving torturing and executing their own civilians for daring to accept free humanitarian aid without paying Hamas extra fees for their continued jihad work against Israel. In this horrific video footage that was filmed in Gaza, you will witness pure evil. Gazans who merely received UN food are thrown into cages, brutally tortured, starved for days, and then dragged before a bloodthirsty mob. Before their public slaughter, Hamas carves the word thief into their backs, giving the mob permission, no orders, to rip them apart like animals. This is the true face of Hamas. This is the evil of the United Nations that they protect. Don't you dare tell me all cultures are equal. This is savagery, not resistance. This is blood sacrifice, not freedom fighting. Share this now, tear down the lies, force the world to see the truth. And the footage is quite disturbing. This is Hamas and how they deal with Gazans. Now, there are not many in the media telling this. Most of them in the media don't care about this because of their hatred for Israel or for Zionists. They're not about to tell you the truth. They're going to keep the lies and the propaganda going. I mean, they're beating these people with clubs. They're spray painting thief on their back in Arabic. And the videos are there. And the mobs will kill these people. Okay? Aaron, what do you know about this? How much is this in the press in Israel?
Yeah, we've been seeing this very closely, following it, Brannon. And sadly, the same news outlets that demonize Israel, blacklist Israel, blacklist our leaders and our military, they don't report these articles, Brannon. They don't show them. Where is the United Nations? Where is the United Nations Secretary General? These are the ones that should be out there with the voice, but they're not doing it. Only when Israel commits a alleged crime are there reports from these voices. This is terrible. This is what Now, one of the positive things, Brannon, is that there are uprising among the Palestinian people. They have had enough of Hamas. There are stories of groups rising up. And by the way, some of these groups are apparently working with the IDF. These are signs of hope. It doesn't look like signs of hope here. This is barbaric. This is animalistic. These are, if anyone is watching and you support Hamas, I hope you feel ashamed of yourself watching this. I don't care who this person is. When I was in the army and we captured people coming through our borders, we used to have to handcuff them. We used to have to blindfold them, but we had to treat them with respect. We were not allowed to do anything of this sort. This is inhumane. These are the real crimes against humanity. Look at this. And so, but you get very silent crowd from the people who condemn Israel for alleged crimes. Mm-hmm. Shame on these people.
And of course, this is not being reported on a lot of news outlets in America. You know that, right? And would you agree it's because of the hatred for Israel, the demonic hatred of Israel?
We've been demonized. The narrative, the die has been cast. People now, it's almost like they've made up their mind. The media war that Hamas and the poor victims have been feeding the mass crowds, just like the Nazis, who were fantastic propagandists. They have fed people poison. People have been poisoned. And sadly, they won't listen. They've made up their mind. So, I wouldn't be surprised if those scenes that we just saw is going to also get turned on Israel. That's how bad it's become. And this is where we have to step up through the media and find new strategies and ask our good Lord to give us wisdom, strategy, and victory through the media. That's where we really have to step up. And if people out there are watching, we need your prayers. We need your support doing this. This is a war zone. This is a battle, not just here in this studio, but in many other studios. We need the light, we need the truth to get out there because the lies are being fed and people are swallowing them up.
Well, we have again, the New York Post, Columbia protester and self-proclaimed Jew hater had direct links to Hamas's terror cells, disturbing phone records reveal, according to the DOJ. A Jew hater who protested against Israel on Columbia's University campus and contemplated setting a student on fire allegedly had a direct link to Hamas's deadly brigades, Al-Qassam Brigades militant group, the Post can reveal. Now, let me tell you something. There are thousands of these kind of people in the U.S. The border's down. It was down for a lot of years under Obama. It was down under Biden. They're here. They're everywhere. That's why I keep telling my audience, like a broken record, something bigger than 9/11 is coming. Something like October 7th is coming. I can't tell you when, but I can tell you it will happen. Agree or disagree? I'm talking about in America. Agree or disagree, Aaron?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The handwriting's on the wall. And that's why I said before, when your authorities like Marco Rubio, who's really stepping up, are exporting or banishing or throwing out these people from your borders, this is deterrence, Brannon. This is to protect your border. He's not being mean. He's not being cruel. If they've done nothing wrong, fine. If they're there illegally and if they've got connections to these jihadist groups, then sorry, you got to get them out and not put your civilians at risk, and certainly the Jewish community. We know what these jihadists, these Muslims want. They want first, what's the new chant? First the Saturday people, then next the Sunday people, the Christians.
Yep. Brooklyn, New York, NYPD orders Jews to move rather than Jew haters harassing them. Now, I can't play the video because the video of these individuals harassing the Jews is so bad that, the language they're using. Okay? One of them pulls his pants down and turns and points his backside at the Jews. These are Orthodox Jews, by the way. Okay? They're sitting on a park bench in New York, in Brooklyn, wearing their black hats, wearing their normal, Orthodox clothes. And the police walk up, and the police end up telling the Jews, you need to move. You need to get out of here. Okay?
Unbelievable.
This breeds, let me tell you something. This breeds terrorism.
Yes.
This breeds terrorism. Do you think if that had been a group of homosexuals sitting on the park bench and you had some so-called right-wingers doing that to them and hurling insults at them, that the NYPD would have said to the homosexuals, you better get up and leave? No, we all know what would have happened. More than likely, they would have arrested the people who were assaulting them. Let's remind our audience, I'm not an attorney, but most Americans probably don't know this. Assault and battery. Assault and battery. Assault can happen without you touching someone. You get in their face, you make threats to them, and they have fear. It can be considered an assault. Battery, as I understand it, is when you put your hands on them, right? So I always tell my young people around us, be aware of assault and battery. Somebody does something, you get angry, you start running your mouth at them, and they can then say, well, I feared because he said X, Y, and Z, or got close to me, and now you're being charged with assault. You're like, why did I touch him? Well, there's a difference between assault and battery. There are varying degrees of assault.
Yeah.
And I think this was a crime. And the NYPD instead say to the Jews, the Orthodox Jews, move along, get off the park bench, leave. This is breeding terrorism. That's my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's weakness. It's weak leadership. It's weak from the part of the police. They don't want to deal with the real root problem. So the easier way is to get rid of what, is causing these bullies to turn up, So rather than dealing with the bullies, let's deal with the weaker, the easier way to deal with it and get rid of the Jews out of the way. And that way the problem will be solved. But it's not solving the problem, because the problem doesn't go away. The problem is not the Jews. The Jews are not a problem. They're not controlling the world, which is everyone's conspiracy. They're not trying to convert people to Judaism. They're not trying to.
If they controlled the world, none of the Marxists and the Islamists would be walking in the streets. They would be dealt with. They'd be in jail. They'd be in some kind of confinement camp, right?
Exactly.
So if they're so powerful, why are these Islamists and Red Green Axis able to do what they do?
I know. And they're not trying to convert everyone to Judaism. So it's not a religious issue. It's not a political issue. They're not trying to overthrow the government. And it's not a geographical issue. They're not trying to set up the state of Israel in New York or Washington or wherever they are in the United States. What is it then, Brandon? What is it? It's the fact that they're Jews. They're a threat, spiritually, historically, ideologically.
All right, let's go to that right there. Spiritually. Everyone that has a brain knows we are in the last days. Okay? We see volcanoes erupting. We're seeing earthquakes everywhere. You then go into Revelation. The seals are being broken. You have the trumpet judgments. You have the vial or the bowl judgments. And what do you have? You have volcanoes spewing, rocks, boulders. You have earthquakes, right? You have plagues and pestilence. It seems as though the world is already being set for the shifting of the tectonic plates for this. I read a report recently about the concern about maybe the tectonic plates moving in Missouri and in the Mid-South. The New Madrid Fault. And they're scanning this on the bottom of the Mississippi and wanting to try to figure out. I'm like, look, I'm not worried about that. If it happens, it happens. What am I going to worry about? But what I think more is things are shifting and the Lord is setting the stage for the earthquakes that will be coming. They're talking about asteroids that coming toward Earth right now that could come here in 2027, 2028. Could be a huge, apocalyptic-like event if it hits Earth. I'm thinking, I just wonder if God released these asteroids how many years ago, sent them on their way, because he knows the time when they're supposed to get here, when there will be people climbing under the earth, praying for the mountains and the rocks to fall on them because they are so afraid of God. And I'm thinking, are the asteroids already on their way? In fact, there are hailstorms in the Bible. I think it's over in Job that there seems to be some kind of storehouse where God already has stored up hailstorms. Are you aware of that?
That one I don't recall.
Yeah, I'll bring that one up during the break. I'm having to wonder if some of these things are already being put in motion, because what's going on here is the spiritual aspect of destroying the Jews so there's no millennial kingdom. We're not changing courses now. We are who we are. We're committed to the truth that we are committed to. Worldview Tube is a broadcast network that I started in 2006, but it's based on my 35 years as an author and speaker and commentator. Worldview Tube is here to defend the truth of a Christian worldview. And we believe we can apply it to all areas of life, like law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, major issues.
At worldviewtube.com, we provide news from around the globe that isn't typically covered by mainstream media. Visit worldviewtube.com to watch our experts and analysts discuss all your favorite topics on our 24/7 live stream. Explore our extensive collection of unfiltered and uncensored content from 35 years of production. Go to worldviewtube.com today. Also find us on all of these major platforms and download our Worldview Tube mobile app.
All right, go with me to Job chapter 38. Job chapter 38. Let's go to verse 22. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or seen the storehouses of the hail, which I reserve for times of trouble, for days of war and battle? Wow. Has God already stored up the hail that, as I'm studying with my attendees in our Sunday night church service, and because I teach through the book of Revelation, all kinds of hail. God already has the storehouse ready to go. Have the tectonic plates already started to shift? Have the volcanoes already started to erupt? Or is the stage being set for what's going to happen as God pours out his wrath during that 7-year tribulation for those who have what? Blasphemed God? They have served Satan. They have worshiped demons. They've worshiped the Antichrist. They've worshiped the beast. They've worshiped the dragon, Satan. They've followed the false prophet. They've worshiped the image of the beast. And guess what else? They have murdered his prophets. That would be the 2 witnesses in Jerusalem and the saints. And remember, under the altar, they're crying out, how long before you avenge us, our blood and that of the saints? Here are your robes. Wait a little while. I will. And boy, Revelation 16, here comes the bowl judgments. And they are worse than anything that's happened up to that point. And they are crescendoing to the end. And they do not repent. They get what they deserve. That's what the angel says. The angel says, you are righteous, O Lord, because you have judged those who have shed the blood of the saints. And they're going to get what they deserve. But what is all this really about? It's about wiping out Jews, so there's no Jews to roll into the millennial kingdom, to receive the kingdom, so that Satan's kingdom prevails in Babylon. We see that in Revelation 16, his kingdom. And then we see that the armies from the east, where's the east? That's Babylon. The Magi came from the east. Every time you see it in the east, Babylon. And the Euphrates dries up, they can come from Babylon, and they go to Jerusalem. And why are they there? Because Satan, the Antichrist, the false prophet, and demonic signs and wonders have called the world there. And the kings from the east, Babylon, where Satan has his kingdom, is the dwelling place for demons and Satan and Antichrist, who is Satan possessed and demon possessed. And they come to Jerusalem to battle God. So God can't set up his millennial kingdom. If there are no Jews, no kingdom. No believers in the millennial kingdom who come to Yeshua, no kingdom. This is a spiritual battle of massive proportion, and most churches in America have no clue what I'm talking about. True or false, Aaron? And by the way,
Yeah.
what do you think of Job 38, verse 22?
Oh my gosh, great verse, Brandon, great verse, and very applicable. And it reminded me of Luke 21 when the Lord said about the last days, and there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and the stars, and on the earth distress of nations with perplexity. The sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and the things that are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. So, but like you said, if God's got these things stored up, there is a set time for everything. And even with the anti-Semitism, and I've talked a lot about this, how Jewish communities are packing their bags. Where I live in Netanya, it's filled with French Jews. I was talking to some today, and I was asking them, how's the French Jewish community? They said they're all getting ready to leave. There's no future for them. So that's also part of God's plan. And the verse that came to me as you were talking, Brandon, Psalm 23, where it says, thou preparest a table for me in the presence of thy enemies. We've got to know where that table, God's word, in the midst of our enemies.
Isn't that Psalm 23? Isn't that Psalm 23?
Yeah, that's Psalm 23, the Lord, the shepherd's psalm. And where these things, these signs and distress of nations are coming. We've got to be prepared. And how are we going to be prepared? We've got to be
talk about prepared. If when I study the book of Revelation right now, and I see what's going on in the tribulation with the water turning to blood, you can't drink. It's like the blood of a dead man. It's coagulated, it's congealed. It stinks to high heavens. I see the lack of food. I see all this going on. I'm thinking to myself, now, if all these Americans that mock the rapture, if they really knew their Bibles and thought they were going to go through the tribulation, they all ought to have a place to go hide with food and water and medicine, but they don't. I'm like, how convinced are you that the rapture is a joke? You're not too convinced, or you'd be stocking it up. Let me tell you something else. For those of us that believe in the removal of the church, why do you not have food and water and scripture and the Bible and a written testimony prepared for your children, your son-in-law, your daughter-in-law, your unsaved relatives, your nephews, your nieces, your grandchildren? Why have you not stored up something for them and said, I've made provisions for you. I pray you become a believer before this happens? But when it happens, I believe God's going to give you another chance. Now, I know there are some who think that after the rapture, you don't get another chance. I don't see that in the Bible, other than through twisted scripture. But why are you not using your own preparations should we go through some of this pre-rapture ourselves? Why would you not also say, if I don't need it, I'm letting my unsaved relatives know where it's at and praying that they become believers?
Brennan?
Because the church is asleep, that's why.
You know what? I was just going to quote Ezekiel 37, which is a prophecy for the house of Israel. Let these dead bones live. How are they going to live? The breath from the four winds, the Spirit of God has got to breathe on the house of Israel to make them live. That's what we need for the church worldwide, because the Lord said there's going to be a great falling away. So that's got to happen. But if there's any people that are listening, I would recommend don't be in that category where you're going to be the ones falling away.
Yep.
Wake up. May the Spirit of God wake you up. Because
the hail, the storehouse of hail is already prepared, and apparently the meteorites are already on their way. Take care. And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and you here on World YouTube. Talk to me about that for a minute. Your thoughts. If people, why are people who believe in the rapture not preparing something for their family and friends? Number one, they should have something for themselves, because that, again, a lot of this stuff can happen before the rapture. But wouldn't they not say, I'm also putting enough away and letting my family and friends that aren't saved know, hey, if you're not going to believe what I'm telling you, you need to know I'm leaving some Bibles, some literature about what's happening, and here's some food and water, because this is what's going to unfold after I'm out of here. Or if you actually mock the rapture and believe you're going through this, if I really believed I was going through the 7-year tribulation and I'm studying the book of Revelation, you'd be a fool not to be saying, you know what, I'm skipping vacations for the next couple of years, and I'm spending whatever discretionary income I can get my hands on to get ready for this 7 years for my children and my grandchildren and my spouse, because it's going to be hell on earth. But no, the church, and a quote, church in America is a slumbering. If the rapture, the pre-tribulation rapture is true, I would really like for the Lord to allow us to hear what the service is like on the average church in America after the rapture. Because can you believe that? I would think the building will be packed with people trying to grasp what just happened. Didn't they all run to church after 9/11? They all ran to church.
You know, it reminds me, Brandon, of the 10 virgins, the 5 foolish ones. They asked the wise ones, give us some of your oil. And the wise one said, you go and buy it. You go pay a price. And, you know, the foolish ones, they wanted to go to the wedding as well, but they needed oil. And they wanted it cheaply. And the wise one said, no, you got to pay a price. Go and buy it yourself. And I think we've got to prioritize our lives and ask, what are the important things? What are our priorities? And are there hooks from the world that have pierced my soul? What hooks are in the world that have pierced my soul, that are causing me, holding me back from going full out for the Lord and full on for his kingdom's sake?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a question we all need to ask.
Isn't it interesting, Aaron, that with all that's going on in the world and the tech bros who, like Peter Thiel, who's quoting the Bible and who's talking about, I don't know if you know this, Peter Thiel, who he is, co-founder of PayPal, and he's with what's it called? Palantir. He's in the Trump, he's working in the Trump administration, going to develop databases on every American. And he's talking about the book of Revelation and Antichrist versus Armageddon. And he's very confused. He knows just enough. He knows just enough about the Bible to be interesting and dangerous. And I'm thinking to myself, here's a tech bro being interviewed, and he's talking about Antichrist or or Armageddon. He's talking about these things that are going to come to pass. He's a homosexual, by the way, according to the news reports, right? And I'm thinking to myself, here we are, Aaron. You and I have been equipped and prepared for here and now at a time when there's a lot of people interested in our broadcast, in our network, and a lot of them are Christians, and a lot of them are not. But they're very interested in my teaching on Revelation. I am stunned at the people I talk to who are big names that people would know. And they say to me, Brandon, you're very bold about your faith. You're very bold about what you think is coming. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? I am blown away by the people that are well known in the circles of the conservative media world and political world. They're very aware I'm teaching on Revelation. They're very aware what I'm doing. I'm like, well, how would you know that?
Yeah.
Right? What I'm saying is there is an interest by a lot of people we would never expect in what we're saying and what we're doing. And I just don't think it's coincidence that I'm 56 years old, that I'm here now, that my son is 22. He has this technical ability, that we have this 2 control rooms full of $1 million in equipment at this time, that I have this understanding of the book of Revelation like I've never had because I'm studying it now. And all of these things are happening right now. This is all providential. Let me tell you something. If I got up every day thinking that there was no plan, no purpose, no providence involved, I would be bored out of my mind. But I think this is all providential. And you and I are part of it. And there's this audience. Closing comment, like 10 seconds.
Oh, Brandon, Jeremiah, Moses, they all had a call. They knew the call. And I think that's what you're talking about. God has a call for every one of us, but will we respond to that call?
Amen to that. Aaron Lavarca, our reporter.